Finders, keepers, losers, weepers, right? That was the law on the street, but that may not actually be the law in court. Sponsoring today's Ask the Lawyer segment, Tapella and Eberspaher law firm in Charleston, and attorney Andrew Koester joining us with more on this. This is interesting. So when you have property that perhaps belongs to somebody else and then you have it, how is that changing these days? So
it hasn't really changed. It's an old doctrine, but it's kind of withstood the common law through the years, which is just court-made law versus statutes. And there's actually also a statute that addresses this as well. But what the courts do is they define it, they put your property, if you find it, property that's not yours, into three different categories. So it's either mislaid property, lost property, or abandoned property. Let's say that we're sitting at Joe's having lunch, and we get up to leave, and I set my cell phone on the table, and I forget it when I go. That is what's called mislaid property because I intentionally put it on the table, but then I just forgot about it. Okay. So that's mislaid property. Lost property would be if we're sitting there having lunch and it slips out of my pocket, falls on the floor, and I get up without noticing. That's lost property because I didn't intentionally put it on the floor. It fell in my pocket, and now I don't know where it is. Abandoned property is, let's say that I'm at lunch and I'm trying to talk to a client on my phone and I'm having terrible service and I can't hear anything, and I say, and you hear me say, this phone's a piece of junk, I'm getting rid of it, I don't ever want it again, and I toss it on the ground and I walk out. You have a good argument that I abandoned the phone because I said, I hate this phone, I don't want to use it anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's treated differently than if I just left it there. So the law treats those situations differently if you were to come upon my cell phone after that. Okay, so in each of those cases, let's talk about if you're the person who might have mislaid your property or lost your property, theoretically that person I would want my cell phone back. Exactly, right? And that's exactly why the law treats it differently. So if it's mislaid or lost, that is still my property because I haven't shown any intention to get rid of it. I just misplaced it or I lost it. Okay. So if you came up and you found my cell phone and in one of the first two scenarios, you can't just take it. Okay. But if I abandoned it, if I said this thing's a piece of junk, I don't want to see it again, and I throw it on the ground, you can take it if you want because I have abandoned the property. I've shown an intent to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. You could pick it up and it could be your cell phone. Okay, well, right, but I wouldn't know that most of the time, right? So how does that factor in? If your cell phone's on the ground, I don't know that you've abandoned it, even if it is a piece of... Right, there is never a presumption that property is abandoned. You know, you got to hear me say out loud that this phone's a piece of junk, I don't ever want to see it again, and then throw it on. It's got to be a situation like that for you to be able to take the phone legally, otherwise it's considered theft and you could be potentially prosecuted for conversion. Well, let's talk a little bit about that. So the other two, the mislaid and the lost. So I come up on your cell phone that you've either mislaid or you've lost. Yeah. So then what happens? If I take that phone, am I in trouble immediately? It depends. And there's actually a process that you have to go through. And it's kind of called a finder's keeper's law because if you go through the process, you get to keep the cell phone if nobody claims it. Mm-hmm. So the way it works is you would file an affidavit with the circuit clerk down at the courthouse saying, I found the cell phone, I don't know the owner, this is when I found it, this is where I found it. And so the circuit clerk would take it and then take it down to the county clerk, and they have what's called an estrays record book. And they would record, the lost property in the affidavit that you filed. And then what would happen is they're supposed to file or publish a newspaper for 3 weeks. And if after 1 year of the first day of publishing, nobody's claimed it, then you get it. Woo! All right, so it needs to be pretty valuable, and you must really want that thing that you found. Yeah, yeah. I'm not recommending that you do it, but if you want it, if there's something that you find that you want to keep, that's the legal way to do it in Illinois. Andrew Koester, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, Tapella and Eberspaher law firm, experts in clearly everything. That was really fascinating. More information at tapellalaw.com. We'll connect you as well at ciliving.tv. If you have a question for the firm, go to ciliving.tv. Look on the right-hand side, halfway down the page, where you'll see the Ask the Lawyer box. Click there to submit your question.